Hi, I'm Tom Casill at McGregor Abstract. We've been insuring titles in the New York area since 1986. I used to tell people how many years that was, but the longer it goes, the more I need a calculator. One of the things that we've been doing since I can remember, is we've stayed in touch with the real estate community, the professionals, to keep them informed of recent changes, current events. It seems like there's always changes going on in the real estate industry, and I have a few of them that I'd like to put in front of you. The first one has to do with a revision in the transfer taxes and the mansion taxes as they apply to New York City properties. This was passed in Albany. It was passed as part of New York State's budget on April 1st, but it only applies to properties that are in New York City. Currently, there's transfer taxes in place that affect the entire state at a rate of $4 of tax per $1,000 of consideration. That's in place, that stays in place. But there will be new taxes on top of that. The new rates for the New York State transfer tax for residential properties in excess of $3 million in purchase price, the tax is going to jump from $4 per thousand to $6.50 per thousand. Now, on any other kind of property other than residential, that means commercial or mixed-use properties, that change from $4 a thousand to $6.50 per thousand is going to start when the purchase price hits $2 million. And if you know the values of property in New York City, this is going to affect a lot of properties in New York City. There has been no change in who's paying the tax. The seller does pay the tax. At the same time, under the same budget bill, they also changed the mansion tax. The mansion tax, you might be familiar, is residential properties that's used as primary residence, purchase price of $1 million or more, and it's 1% of the purchase price, and the buyer gets the benefit. They get the burden of paying that tax. That tax is still into effect, but what they're doing now is they're putting increasing amounts of tax on the more expensive real estate. From purchase prices of $2 million or up, the tax is going to jump from 1% to 1.25%. From $3 million and up, it goes to 1.5%, and then it jumps at 5%, at $5 million, at $10 million, at $15 million. It goes all the way up to $25 million. If you're buying a residence in Manhattan, anywhere in the boroughs, for $25 million and up, there's going to be a 3.9% mansion tax, which is just shy of $1 million in tax. Now, these revisions became effective April 1st. They don't go into effect until July 1st of this year. If you close before July 1st, you're still under the old taxes. If you close after July 1st, you get the new tax rates, so you get to pay more money, unless you went into contract prior to April 1st. And of course, in order to prove that you're entitled to the lower rate, you're going to have signed contracts to show New York State that you're entitled to the lower rates. So, welcome to New York State, land of taxes. They're constantly changing. I'm sorry, were you looking to buy a property that was going to be more than that? That was the bad news. Actually, that's not the worst news, but I have some good news. Last week, Suffolk County lowered their recording charges on mortgages. Now, you probably already know that Nassau and Suffolk County are astronomically high in taking fees from the people that are buying or just transferring properties. And a couple years ago, Suffolk County put on an extra fee of $300 per mortgage document. At the same time, they allowed us the vehicle of transmitting these documents electronically. So there was a lot of positive with that, but $300 per mortgage, per assignment of mortgage, per modification of mortgage, per satisfaction of mortgage. As of the 31st of May, they've taken that $300 fee and lessened it to $200. What are they thinking? This is New York State. It's supposed to be more expensive in New York State. Having said that, I have one last item. Now, these things that I went over so far are in effect as we speak. This last item is proposed legislation. There is proposed legislation, and there was proposed legislation 2 years ago to the same effect. If I tell you that it's a flip tax, you're going to think co-ops. This has nothing to do with co-ops, but I'm going to use that term, flip tax. New York State has a bill in the Assembly and in the Senate, and its short title is New York State Small Home Anti-Speculation Act. New York, if it passes on the way it stands right now, if you buy a home in New York City and you sell it in less than 24 months, there will be an additional tax regardless of what the purchase price is. These other ones, you saw that there were purchase prices and escalating amounts. This is, I'm calling it a flip tax. If you buy a house and you for $100,000 and you put $50,000 in and you're going to sell it for $300,000 and make a profit, they're going to tax you not just on the increase but on the entire amount. And if you sell that house within 12 months of purchasing it, let me read it for you, 20% is the tax on top of all the other taxes when you sell a home within the first 12 months. If you sell it between 12 months and 24 months, the tax goes down to 15%. 15%. That's on top of all the other things that are going on. I'm not quite sure what they have in mind. They tell us what the money is going to be used for, but I can see what's going to happen if this goes into effect. There's a whole industry out there of home improvement companies that come along and buy property that's hasn't been updated, property that's damaged, and they can't sell. They'll buy that house, fix it up, and they'll sell it usually at or below what would be market value. And all of those people that are in that industry are going to find it very difficult to make. I'm not concerned about them making money. Yes, I am concerned. But what you're doing is you're taking away the buyers for the people that have this distressed property. You're going to eliminate, I'm going to say 80 to 90% of the potential buyers for that property. You're going to have to sit around and wait for a nice family to come around who's going to want to buy a fixer-upper. And they are out there. There still will be a market to sell these houses, but it's just going to be much more difficult on those that have these distressed properties. Maybe it's in an estate. Maybe mom and dad have just lived there and they're getting older and they're getting ready to move down to Florida, and the last time they updated the house was the 1950s. There's a lot of properties out there that are like that, and this tax, well, it's not in effect yet, and if you're of the ilk to speak to your legislators about it, I will tell you that in the Assembly it's known as 5375, and in the Senate it's Bill 3060 as of this legislative year. There'll be more. That's what I have right now. Bad news, good news, bad news. But I want you to be aware so that you can speak to your people from a position of intelligence, a position of knowing what's going on. That's all for now, and look forward to updating you soon.